Okay, so get this. Imagine you're a Roman emperor, the year, let's say, 300 AD. Sounds pretty sweet, right? Top of the world, all that power.
Right.
Except, well, there's a catch. The average lifespan for those emperors back then, about 2 years.
Yeah, not exactly a long and prosperous career path.
No, not at all. A very dangerous position to be in.
That's the world Constantine the Great was born into. Brutal power struggles, constant warfare, and religion. Well, let's just say it was about to go through a major upheaval. And we're diving deep into all of it today, right?
Absolutely.
Exploring the life and reign of Constantine. This guy not only survived this crazy period, but he changed the Roman Empire forever.
And his influence, it really echoes through history, even down to us today.
Oh, definitely. So to help us unpack all of this, we're turning to the work of Professor David Potter.
He's really the authority on Constantine.
He breaks down Constantine's strategies, the alliances he formed, even the role of, possible divine intervention. It's all in there.
A fascinating story. Full of ambition, betrayals, some real military genius. Oh, yeah. And you can't forget his role in the rise of Christianity.
That had a huge impact, shaped Western civilization.
Okay, so let's start with Constantine's early years. What was his childhood like? I mean, what kind of world did he grow up in that shaped him into the emperor he became?
It's actually a bit of a puzzle, his early life. Born into the super volatile time, but also had a pretty privileged upbringing. His father, Constantius, was a top military guy.
High ranking.
Yeah, and his mother, Helena, well, she seems to have come from a well-off family, too.
So no rags to riches story here.
No, not really. But even with those advantages, his childhood wasn't exactly peaceful. Constantius, his dad, was always on the move, climbing the ranks in the Roman army.
Ambitious.
And Constantine saw all of that firsthand, the ambition, the ruthlessness.
He got a front row seat to Roman politics.
He did. And things got even more complex when his father, Constantius, got a promotion, deputy emperor.
Wow.
Big deal. But to get that position, he had to divorce Constantine's mother and marry the daughter of Maximian.
Talk about a power move. What happened to Constantine during all this family drama?
Well, he got shipped off to the court of Diocletian. This is the emperor who was trying to stabilize the empire through, a system called the Tetrarchy, sharing power.
I see. So it's like Constantine was a pawn in this game.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
A way to control Constantius, or maybe at least keep an eye on his ambitious son.
So what kind of education would young Constantine have gotten at Diocletian's court? Surrounded by these master strategist manipulators, learning from the best, or at least the most ruthless.
It had to be an intense experience. Think about it, military officer, on campaigns with Diocletian, even fighting in that major war against the Persians.
Learning on the job in the highest stakes environment you can imagine.
Exactly. But, they were very different personalities, Diocletian and Constantine.
Right, so how did that affect Constantine's leadership style?
Well, Diocletian was all about control, order, believed in sharing power to keep things stable, he thought.
Makes sense.
Constantine, though, he developed a more centralized style. He wanted to be the sole authority.
The ultimate decision maker.
Yeah, and I think that time in the East, it showed him the power of religion.
How so?
Well, he saw Diocletian's persecution of Christians. It actually ended up backfiring and weakening the empire. It's a lesson in how religion can be a powerful tool, but also a dangerous one.
A double-edged sword.
Exactly.
Let's talk about how Constantine made his own grab for power. He was with his father in Britain when things changed, right?
Yes, in 305, Constantine's father dies. Everyone expects Severus to take over. He was the designated successor. But Constantine, well, he had other plans.
He saw an opportunity.
He seized the moment, rallied his father's troops, and bam, declared himself emperor.
That's a bold move. Going against the established order. What made him think he could pull it off?
It was a risk, but calculated. He understood military strategy. He acted fast, secured those mountain passes, blocked any immediate threats, and then he focused on his father's officers. Made sure they were loyal.
He was playing the game.
Definitely. Thinking several steps ahead.
He had some serious rivals, though, right? The other emperors wouldn't just let him take the throne.
No, they wouldn't. He had to consolidate power fast, make a statement.
And how did he do that?
Well, he used some pretty brutal tactics.
Oh.
Captured 2 Frankish kings. Usually you'd ransom them, use them as bargaining chips.
Right.
Constantine threw them to the lions.
That sends a message.
Definitely. Don't mess with Constantine.
Loud and clear.
It was ruthless, but calculated. He needed to project strength, intimidate anyone who opposed him.
So he's not afraid to use force.
Not at all. It's a recurring theme, really, throughout his career. Brilliant strategist, great leader, but capable of incredible brutality.
And with that combination, he secured control of Britain, Gaul.
A power base in the West.
He was building his empire.
Piece by piece. But his ultimate goal, the real prize, was Rome.
And to get that, he had to face his own brother-in-law, Maxentius.
The one who had taken control of Italy and Rome itself?
Talk about family drama.
Right.
What caused that clash? Was it just power or something else going on?
It was multi-layered. Both men believed they were the rightful emperor.
2 emperors, 1 throne.
Yeah.
Doesn't really work.
No, it doesn't. Constantine, he felt he inherited his claim from his father. Maxentius, he saw himself as the defender of Rome, of tradition.
So a clash of ideologies, too.
Yeah, and don't forget the personal animosity. Constantine had executed Maxentius's father years before.
Oh, right. Yeah, that'll create some tension.
Underlying tension, resentment, and then the strategic reality. Constantine couldn't be the undisputed ruler of the West as long as Maxentius held Rome.
A showdown waiting to happen.
Exactly. And it all came to a head in 312, the Battle of the Milvian Bridge.
This battle is legendary, in part because of Constantine's supposed conversion to Christianity. Did he really see a vision of the cross?
That's a complicated story. The most famous account, it comes from Eusebius, a historian. He wrote a biography of Constantine, years after his death, though.
So, not exactly a primary source.
Right. But according to Eusebius, just before the battle, Constantine sees this cross in the sky with the words, "In this sign conquer."
Wow.
Divine intervention. But here's the thing. Constantine never mentions this vision himself. Not in his writings, not in speeches.
Interesting.
And no one else from that time in the West mentions it either.
Maybe a little embellishment to make Constantine look good?
Possibly. Eusebius was a Christian bishop writing decades later. Maybe he wanted to highlight Constantine's piety, make his rule seem more legitimate.
Okay, so what do we know about his beliefs at this time? Was he a devout Christian?
There's some evidence he was interested in monotheism, especially the cult of Sol Invictus.
The unconquered sun.
Totally. A popular deity, especially in the army, associated with victory, power.
So maybe not a full-blown Christian yet.
But open to the idea of one powerful God.
Makes sense.
And remember, religion wasn't so black and white back then. People worshipped many gods, blended traditions.
There was a different world.
It was.
So what do you think happened? Why this apparent shift towards Christianity during this campaign?
I think it's a few things. He's facing a tough opponent, needs every advantage.
High stakes.
And he learned from Diocletian's mistakes. Saw how persecution backfired. He knew tolerance could unite the empire.
So it's strategic as much as a true conversion.
Right. And it's interesting, even as he's embracing Christianity, he doesn't abandon Roman religion entirely. He still honors the sun god, even allows new temples, as long as they don't have animal sacrifices.
A gradual shift,
Yeah.
reflecting the changes happening in the empire.
Exactly. He's navigating a complex world, and religion is a key part of that.
Okay, back to the battle. How does Constantine pull off the victory?
The details, well, they're a bit fuzzy, but it seems he outmaneuvered Maxentius, forced him to fight where he didn't want to. And there's this detail about the Chi symbol.
The first 2 letters of Christ's name in Greek.
Right, on the shields of Constantine's soldiers.
So maybe not the vision, but the Chi was real.
It was. Lactantius mentions it. He was a Christian writer close to the court. And we see it on coins, artifacts from the period.
So even if Constantine wasn't a devout Christian yet, he's using those symbols.
Appealing to a wider audience, maybe even inspiring his own troops.
Blending religion and politics.
A brilliant move.
And it worked. Constantine wins. Maxentius is killed. Constantine enters Rome as the undisputed ruler of the West.
A major turning point.
But just the beginning of his reign.
The beginning of a very long and complicated story. So, yeah, Constantine, he's standing there, victorious in Rome. Maxentius is gone. You'd think, maybe time to relax, right? Enjoy the spoils of war.
Yeah, kick back, maybe build a giant statue, emperor things.
But Constantine, he wasn't that kind of emperor. He knew real power, lasting power. It needed more than just, winning battles.
So what did he do? How did he solidify his position, bring stability to the empire?
Well, he was surprisingly pragmatic, actually.
Oh.
He didn't purge everyone who'd supported Maxentius, didn't just replace them all with his own people.
That's interesting. Considering his fondness for throwing people to lions. I wouldn't have pictured him as the sharing is caring type.
He understood that to stabilize things, you needed a subtler approach. So he kept a lot of Maxentius's officials, worked them into his administration.
Clever. Integrate them, minimize resentment.
Right. And he respected Roman traditions, institutions. Even while he introduced new ideas, policies, he knew that you can't just break with the past completely. It creates chaos.
A balancing act. Pragmatism and political maneuvering.
Exactly. And this is where the Edict of Milan comes in.
Right, the Edict of Milan. Didn't that make Christianity the official religion of Rome?
Not exactly. It's more about tolerance, really. Freedom of worship for everyone, including Christians who, had been persecuted for years.
A big change in policy then, moving towards religious pluralism. That was pretty rare back then.
Oh, it was a radical shift. What's really striking, I think, is that the edict says straight out that persecution doesn't work. Forcing people to abandon their beliefs, it just divided the empire, caused more problems.
So Constantine was learning from the mistakes of the past.
He saw tolerance as a way to unify things, create stability.
But I imagine there's a strategic element to it too.
Right.
He gives Christians protection, wins their loyalty, support.
Definitely. A smart political move. He distinguishes himself from those emperors who came before him.
And all while carefully balancing things out.
Right. He promotes unity, tolerance, but without completely alienating those who still follow the traditional Roman religion. A very delicate balance.
But as always with the Roman Empire, peace doesn't last forever.
No, it never does.
This is where the trouble with Licinius starts, right? His co-emperor in the East.
That's right. They were supposed to rule together, share power. But you know how it goes with these alliances.
They crumble.
They do.
So why did this one fall apart? Clash of personalities? Or something more fundamental?
It's that classic power struggle, isn't it? Two ambitious guys, both convinced they're the rightful ruler, but they also had some pretty different views on things. Ideologies.
Like on a religion.
Exactly. We talked about how Constantine was moving toward a more tolerant approach.
Right.
Licinius? He started to backtrack on the Edict of Milan. Started persecuting Christians again in the East.
Oh, wow.
It created a clear division between them, a real clash of worldviews, which eventually led to war in 314.
So it wasn't just personal ambition, it was about something bigger, like a battle for the soul of the empire.
I like that, a battle for the soul of the empire. And it was a battle between two experienced military leaders.
Who had the advantage?
Well, both were formidable, but Constantine, he was just a better strategist, faster, more mobile, and he was great at exploiting weaknesses.
What kind of weaknesses?
Yeah.
How do these battles actually play out?
Well, Constantine, he was adaptable, not afraid to take risks, to surprise his opponents. For example, there's this battle, Sibylle. Early on, Constantine, he launches this, daring cavalry charge, just completely routs Licinius's forces.
Wow. So he's not just winning with brute force, he's outsmarting him.
Absolutely. Psychological warfare, too. Knew how to demoralize his opponents. Sow chaos. And it worked. He kept winning. And it all led to this decisive victory at Chrysopolis in 324.
And that made him the sole emperor of the whole Roman Empire.
He did it. Reunited the empire after decades of, division and instability. Pretty remarkable.
But even with the whole empire under his control, Constantine wasn't done. He decides to move the capital. From Rome, no less, to Byzantium, which he renamed Constantinople.
Huge decision. Shows his vision for the empire's future. A future where Christianity is at the center.
Why Constantinople? Why not stick with Rome? It was the heart of the empire, all the traditions.
Well, a few reasons. First, Constantinople was in a great strategic location. Crossroads of Europe and Asia. Controlled trade routes. Important military outpost.
Practical. A way to control the empire more efficiently.
Right. But it was also symbolic. Moving away from Rome, he's distancing himself from the old power structures, which were still, mostly pagan.
Creating a new center of power, a fresh start.
Exactly. Constantinople, it became the symbol of this new era, a symbol of the rising Christian faith.
It's amazing how that one decision, made so long ago, changed the course of history.
It is. Constantinople became this major center of power, culture.
Yeah.
Influenced the Byzantines, the Ottomans, for centuries.
It shows Constantine's vision, how he used symbolism to consolidate power.
He was a master of that. But even as he's building this new capital supporting Christianity, he's still holding on to some of the old ways.
He liked to cultivate that image of a traditional Roman emperor.
He did. He was good at balancing those seemingly contradictory things, blending the old with the new. One of the most interesting things about him.
Can you give us some examples of that?
Sure, think about his approach to the old Roman religion. He didn't ban paganism, outlaw the old ways. In fact, he allowed them to build new temples.
As long as no animal sacrifices were involved.
Right, he's finding that middle ground, trying to keep everyone happy, keep things stable.
Tricky balancing act.
Very tricky. And this balancing act, this tension, you see it in his personal life too, especially with his family.
That's right. Even emperors have family drama. And with Constantine, well, it was pretty traumatic.
To say the least.
Welcome back. We've been talking about Constantine the Great, this emperor who went through, well, a lot to unite the Roman Empire.
And changed it forever, really. Left a mark that we still see today.
Exactly. But even with all the power, all the victories, he couldn't escape family drama.
Oh no, his family life was, well, let's just say it was complicated.
Complicated is putting it mildly. Wives, sons, all with their own ambitions, rivalries, and knowing how Constantine dealt with rivals.
Things were bound to get messy.
Let's talk about one of the most shocking events. The execution of his oldest son, Crispus. This guy, he was like the heir apparent, right?
Oh, absolutely. Crispus, he was a talented military leader, helped Constantine win some of those key battles. Everyone thought he'd be emperor one day.
So not just some spoiled prince, he was the real deal.
He was. But then, in 326, everything changed. Suddenly, he's accused of treason, arrested, executed.
That's harsh. Even for Constantine, what happened? What was going on?
That's the mystery. The sources, they're pretty vague about it. Historians have been arguing about this for ages.
So what are some of the theories?
Some think maybe Crispus got too popular, too powerful, and Constantine saw him as a threat.
That paranoia. When you're at the top, everyone's a potential enemy.
Right. Others think maybe it was palace intrigue, a conspiracy, one of Constantine's wives, maybe an advisor, plotting against Crispus.
House of Cards, Roman Empire edition.
Something like that. There are even wilder stories from some of the pagan writers. They hated Constantine. They claim Crispus was executed because he was having an affair with his stepmother, Fausta, Constantine's wife.
Wow. That's a whole other level of drama. But is there any truth to those stories?
Who knows? Those accounts, they were written much later, and they were clearly trying to make Constantine look bad. But it does seem like things weren't great between Constantine and Fausta in the years before Crispus was killed.
Interesting. So what about Fausta? What happened to her?
Another mystery. A few months after Crispus is gone, poof, Fausta vanishes. No one knows what happened to her.
Vanished. That's suspicious.
It is. Some say she was executed too. Maybe Constantine ordered it because of what happened with Crispus. Others think maybe she was exiled or sent to a monastery.
Either way, she was gone, out of the picture.
She was. And after that, Constantine changed. He became more withdrawn, more, quiet. Some think he felt guilty about what happened to his son and his wife.
It's a heavy burden to carry.
It is. And he never remarried after Fausta. He spent his last years consolidating his power, promoting Christianity, building up Constantinople.
So we've talked about a lot, his military victories, religion, his very complicated family. What's the takeaway? How should we remember Constantine?
He's a complex figure. He united a fractured empire. He was a smart politician, knew that tolerance was important, and he helped Christianity become, well, what it is today, a major force.
He's almost like a character out of a play.
Yeah.
Ambition, piety, ruthlessness, all mixed together.
He is capable of great things and terrible things, and people still debate his legacy, even now.
He reminds us that history isn't simple. Even the most powerful people, they're shaped by forces they can't control.
That's true. And their choices, good or bad, have consequences that can last for centuries. Constantine, his story, it's a window into a really important time in history, a time of change, a time that shaped the world we live in today.
So, listener, what do you think about Constantine? Hero? Villain? Or somewhere in between? We've got some resources in the show notes if you want to learn more. And be sure to join us next time for another deep dive into history.